Hello, today we are going to learn for Power Automate. I'm going to show you how we can transfer this data table into this SharePoint list. For that, I'm using this flow. Initially, this flow won't work, so I'm going to show you another way around to solve it. But first, I want to show you that I use the typical action such as click link on web page, populate text field on web page. This action usually work, but for some reason they don't work in SharePoint. So I'm going to show you like visually. So I'm going to run the flow. Opens the web explorer, sorry. Then it inputs the data. And then, as we can see, the flow doesn't do anything, although, here we can see that it needs to do the next steps, which is click on this, but apparently it's not found for some reason, but it does exist. So as I said, this workflow doesn't work, but I have another flow that it does work. And for that, I have this. First, as we can see, I'm using the launch new Microsoft Edge. Then I'm using a set variable to indicate that this is the file that I'm going to open. Then it launches Excel, then it reads its data. Then I'm using a variable to iterate the information. And then here I am using click link on web page, which this will do is click first on this add new item. And then I'm using this run JavaScript function on web page, and this will help me to write the data into the form over here. So what this does is that it simulates the keystrokes that we input, and that's basically what that part does. And then here I am declaring a variable which will have if its element, and then I'm using this to specify the text that I want to put into the data field. So how do I retrieve this information? So for that, I'm going to need to go to the web page. Then here, I'm going to right click. Once that I have opened this, I'm going to right click and then click on inspect. And here I can see its properties. So I'm gonna bring this a little down. Yes, as we can see, here are its properties. We have an ID, we have a class, a placeholder, a require, a label, and etc. For this example, I use the area label, which is this one. I didn't use the ID because it apparently changes every time that you click on the add new item. So I didn't use that one. And I also didn't use the class because it also changes. So that's why I'm using a query selector to extract this. And that's how I can identify where the text field is. So I have this section commented. This is another way that we could write data into the text field, but this won't work. Why? Because what this does is that overwrites. I mean, it doesn't write like uh, into the text box. It's only on the surface. That's why it doesn't write. And I'm gonna try this later. But yeah, this it won't work. So that's why I'm using all this to emulate the keystrokes. And then we do the same for the second. And then we click. I have a choice field. So that's why I'm clicking first on the input field. And then here I have a if statement, which if it's ordered, clicks on the other, and if not, clicks on delivered. So at the end, I have this other JavaScript function. This what it does is clicking on the save button, but the reason I'm not using click on link web page as here is because the button saved, it also change its properties, and when I use it with the other function, it doesn't detect the button because the button change its properties. So that's why I'm using this. I'm using a document get element by class name, all the full class, and then I'm sending a click. And this is how we can transfer data from Excel to SharePoint. I'm going to run this. The web is now open. We are now entering the data. So the Java script function that it does is that, as I said, it emulates the writing data. This is why we can see that I'm not typing anything right now. So this is purely by JavaScript, and that's how it emulates the keystrokes. And that's why we can then save the information. So and that is all the information that is there. So I'm gonna close this and I'm going to show you the other thing that I said about this function. I'm gonna comment this. This. I'm going to save it. And if I run it, it's gonna do the same. It's going to open the web explorer. You add a new item. And there you go. As we can see, the function didn't write properly on the textbooks. That's why it is not saving correctly. So that's why I was using the emulation of the keystrokes, so we can assure that the data will be entered and will be saved to the SharePoint list. Yeah. As we can see, any of the data that was in the Excel data table is not over here. So that's why I'm using this other method. I'm using this other method, and as you could see, it worked perfectly.